Hi, I'm John F. Allen. And I'm R.J. Sullivan. And we're the Two Towers.
And we're going to start with chapter 4, which is called Sanctuary. And I will get the director out of the way. Early in this one, this episode was directed by Bryce Dallas Howard, who, in her own right, is a very talented actress and director, but who also happens to be the daughter of Ron Howard. And Ron Howard, for those of you younger folks, may have heard of him as a director, but folks in our age bracket remember him as Little Opie and also as Richie Cunningham on Happy Days. He was Opie on the Andy Griffith Show, and he was Richie Cunningham on Happy Days. Bryce Dallas Howard, I did not, when they first announced that I saw her name as the director of this episode, I was like, what? I mean,
Yeah,
not
yeah, weird choice. I thought so too. Yeah.
yeah, but I mean, she nails it. She's directed several episodes of this show, and she's done a fantastic job. I didn't know she was the nerd that she is, but or at least a fan of this particular franchise. But she's nailing it. So kudos to
Yeah,
her.
I knew her mainly as an actress. She's done a lot of sci-fi work. She was in Jurassic World, if I remember correctly.
Yes, she was in
And if
both of those movies. And she was in
and if I
Spider-Man
remember
too.
that, yes, Spider-Man 3. The first Gwen Stacy, correct?
Yeah, yeah. It was two. It was the one with Doctor Octopus, wasn't it? Where she first showed up.
No, the third one with
Third one with the Venom, with the crazy Venom. I was thinking
yep,
she was
yep. They're giving the key to the city, and
yeah,
Mary
yeah,
Jane gets all jealous, and that movie sucked
gotcha.
so
Oh,
bad. But never mind. But
yeah,
that was
yeah.
her.
That's a whole other episode. Oh my God. But um this um this episode starts out on Sorgan, which is a sparsely populated forest planet. A village of farmers are pillaged by raiders, and Jaren lands on Sorgan and is looking to hide from the guild with the child because, as we discussed, he went against the code for the bounty hunters, and now there's a bounty on his head as well as the child. And so they are trying to lie low until he can get the child where it needs to be. Um, in a local restaurant, they come across a suspicious mercenary who identifies herself as Cara Dune. She's played by Gina Carano, a former rebel shock trooper who left her position and is in hiding on the planet. Uh, she asked the Mandalorian to leave, but back on the Razor Crest, Jaren is approached by two of the villagers, hoping to hire him to drive off the raiders. He accepts in return for lodging in an isolated village and uses their payment to hire Dune for extra help. Once at the village, he encounters a widowed mother, played by Julia Jones, and takes them in and offers them food and shelter. Dune and the Mandalorian find a set of tracks in the mud outside the village and identify that as the Raiders. They have a powerful Imperial all-terrain scout transport. Now, this is going to go back into the special effects. When I saw this, I was like, "Oh my God!" I never thought that I would ever see the television that we get today, but especially from the streaming services. I know they have a lot bigger budget than network television, but here's the thing. Just seeing this was like watching a film. I mean, the same level of money and the same level of quality is in the show. I mean, it's awesome. I was like blown away. So anyway, Cara Dune insists that the villagers leave and make their home elsewhere, but they refuse. They decide to fight. So you've got two trained warriors trying to get a bunch of farmers to fight in an upcoming battle against forces that are uber powerful. Sound familiar? Yeah, I'm sure it does. The Mandalorian and Dune show the farmers how to defend themselves and set traps for the ATST, which is a kind of like the AT-AT walkers that we saw in the original trilogies and other movies. They infiltrate the Raiders' camp. They provoke them into attacking, and then when the ATST chases them, it stops short and it falls into the trap, and they're able to stop it, and they're able to defend the village and destroy the walker. And the Raiders flee back in the forest because their biggest weapon has been destroyed, and they saw the writing on the wall. They were going to get killed, so they like, yeah, later. So anyway, with the peace returned to the village, the child is playing happily with other children. It's probably to note that the child is about to eat a frog in this episode. Yeah, the Mandalorian, the Mandalorian tells Dune and Omera, the woman who he'd been staying with, they plan to leave the child there because he feels it would have a better life, because it wouldn't be on the run, it would be hidden, and he knew that the bounty hunters were after him, but there was a bounty hunter from the guild that takes aim at the child from the trees, but before he can fire, Dune shoots him from behind, and then that's when Jaren realizes that the child has to stay under his protection. He bids farewell to Omera and Dune and takes leave of the village. Now, this particular episode very much does a lot with regards to character development and exploring the Mandalorian mythos, and in that this is when we learn about the code where the Mandalorians cannot take off their helmets in the presence of anyone other than their mates. And for a brief moment in time, when it looks like Jaren might actually stay in this village, he gets close to Omera, and you're thinking, oh well, she's gonna be his mate, and then we'll finally see him take his helmet off or whatnot. But he took it off when he was alone, but he couldn't take it off in front of anyone else. But that was the code for the Mandalorians. And so we also see, besides a love interest, we also see another bonding between how Jaren feels about the child. He was ready to leave him for a better life. He was ready to sacrifice his connection with him just to protect him. But then he realizes that these bounty hunters are going to be relentless, and he needs him to protect him. And that's when I think they became inseparable. It was like at that point, it was cemented that wherever Jaren goes, the child goes. And going back to Erica's point about finding babysitters, it is kind of funny that he does along the way come across people that he trusts enough to leave the child with, given everything that happens in these first few episodes. But I think that the people who he leaves the child with, are proven to be trustworthy. It's just very convenient that he happens to have this this plethora of people that he can leave the child with when it's convenient. A funny little thing. Before we get into Erica and RJ, I do want to mention Cara Dune. So I liked her character a lot. I still like her character. The actress has gotten into hot water because she says some things that are not that are rubbing Star Wars fans the wrong way. That seem to be maybe kind of non-PC. I think maybe a little racist. I'm not sure. of the specifics. I don't remember the specifics. All I know is that, she has some political views that, I'm not aligning with. And apparently a lot of other people aren't aligning with, and they had been calling to have her fired from the show. From a standpoint of how she portrays the character and the character itself, I really like the character. So that was the thing with me, because I was trying to separate the actress from the character, and I liked her character. I think it added another layer to to Jaren's people who he could count on, his allies. And, honestly, before all of that other stuff came about, as far as the actress is concerned, I could have seen her character spin off into her own show or whatnot. So what do you guys think about this particular chapter?
Go ahead, Erica.
I think this chapter was where we really saw that parallel with the old Westerns. I mean, he is essentially the gunslinger with a past who saves the town. And that going through and being attracted to the local woman and contemplating staying there, it all very, very much felt like I was watching one of those old Westerns. And even Cara Dune kind of plays into that. Now, I do love that character a lot. Now, again, I suppose I have a weakness for strong female characters who like to kick people's butts. So it's really not a surprise that I'm finding this character really resonates with me. But again, like I said, I watched this. It's the path not taken. Is here they're really throwing into sharp contrast what he gave up to follow the way of the Mandalorian. And there's that slight temptation to give up the way and give in to this life of domestic peace, which is completely shattered by the bounty hunter coming in. So even if he was still entertaining last thoughts of that, he's like, no, that can never happen. And again, like I said, it's really great character development, but it also very much felt like it was that old Western to me.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I'm glad I let you go first, Erica, because I had a feeling some of our thoughts were going to kind of mix on some of these, and I didn't want to keep stealing your thunder and vice versa. But in this case, you did grab some of the things I was going to put out there. This was the Magnificent Seven in space, as far as I was concerned. It starts off and I'm like, oh, I see exactly what this is. And that's not necessarily a criticism. I like that they lean into the tropes, that they make us aware that they know what they're doing, and they lean a little harder into some of the older films that, modern geeks may not necessarily be aware of. But us old guys who have seen the Clint Eastwood, Sergio Leone's, and even the John Fords and all that, yeah, we've seen those. And
but they resonate, and that's why they were used so often.
Absolutely. This is the one that leans particularly hard into that. But you pointed out that they absolutely found some original things to do with it as well. The two characters contrast the life that he has chosen and the life that he could have, as you pointed out, and that tug of war is very apparent throughout the entire episode. The one thing that I couldn't quite connect in my brain, that I had to kind of puzzle over for a little bit, is that this is a little village of farmers, and apparently the raiders that are attacking them felt the need to break out in this heavy-duty AT-ST machine. And I'm thinking, what in the world are they possibly getting from these farmers that makes it necessary to attack them, at this level? But upon pondering it a bit, I came to realize that this is probably leftover equipment that was left over from the war that somebody probably just repaired and they already had it, so they were going to use it.
Oh no,
Um,
I thought it was a dry run, that they were attacking that little village because they were going to test it out and see how it worked before they tried to attack a bigger target.
that would also work. Absolutely. Yeah, but it was kind of odd because I was like, these guys don't have anything, and they're being attacked so. I mean, the one thing about the Magnificent Seven was you got the idea that the people attacking them, they were just bullies for the sake of bullying, and they didn't have anything that much more impressive than what the good guys had. But, you know, when the big old tank came out, it kind of threw me off for a second, and I just had to kind of think it through in my brain. And I like the fact that not everything is necessarily explained, and you kind of have to puzzle over it. That's not necessarily a bad thing. But I absolutely love the character of Cara Dune. I was not aware of what John was talking about with the actress. Seemed like I heard something somewhere, but life's too short. I can't be bothered to go check every one of these things out. But because it seems like someone's getting canceled for one thing or another every day, and sometimes I'm busy and I have other things to do. But it's unfortunate if it's true that she said some things and got herself in trouble. I will say I thought more of the character than I did of the actor portraying her. So if we have to, you know, she meets some accident where something happens to her face and another actor plays her, I'd be okay with that. But I do like the character itself. Of course, it's kind of a basic trope, but I think that it's something significant in this series, and I hope that we do see more of the character. For the character's sake, I guess the actor has to work out whatever issue she has. But you know, they're going to do what's best for Disney's going to do what's best for Disney, whatever that ends up looking like. But I do hope we see her some more. You guys have hit on most of the other points. This was a really solid episode. This was the one that felt most to me like that reminded me of my role-playing days in college. My wife and I were in a group that we played the West End games, Star Wars role-playing game, and we hit that thing hard, and we had developed all these things that were kind of tertiary to the main Star Wars storyline. But like what this show is doing, you know, we got completely immersed in the world that the movies create the framework for, and then you can take it and do your own things with. And by this time, it was very much feeling like that. Unlike John, I did not have Disney Plus when season 1 premiered. We got it on Christmas Day, so the family and I watched the 8 chapters over 8 days. So that's how we strung it out. So I didn't have to wait quite as long from chapter to chapter. So, you know, sorry about that, John. That does sound like torture, but I'm going through it now, if that matters. So yeah, that's all I've got for this one.
Well, let me say that I got Disney Plus mainly because of this show, which I hear a lot of people did as well. And it's proven to be well worth it beyond the show with the other stuff that they've added and the stuff that's coming. So I encourage you, if you are a fan of the Star Wars franchises and you're a Marvel fan and you like National Geographic, and then of course the Disney films, animated films and specials and live action Disney, it's well worth the money per month or year, however you pay for it. So I will definitely recommend it personally. If you don't have Disney Plus already, it's definitely worth getting. I think you get your money's worth even more so now, and in anticipation of all the future shows that are coming to the streaming service. Yes, I will concur on the back end that this very much felt like the space Western. And you mentioned films in particular, Magnificent Seven, definitely. That's what I was alluding to when, does this sound familiar? The people coming to fight untrained. And then you have the warriors training them and looking out for them. But throughout this series, also, it sings of the Sergio Leone films, the spaghetti westerns, which starred Clint Eastwood as the man with no name. Jaren has that vibe to him. They were both men of few words. A lot of the acting came from their body language and their looks. I think, again, it's worth noting that it's even compounded even more for this series because you never see Pedro Pascal's face. You're only hearing his voice and you're seeing the body movements, which sells it so much. I mean, I can't say enough about that. As far as the next episode or chapter is concerned, that is The Gunslinger, which is very appropriate considering how Erica described this last episode going into this one. Definitely goes with the theme of the space western, which I'm a huge fan of. In this chapter, we see the Mandalorian. He's defeated a pursuing bounty hunter in a dogfight, and the Razor Crest is damaged, and he lands at a repair facility run by Peli Motto, who is portrayed by Amy Sedaris, who is a comedian. And Strangers with Candy is a series and the prequel film of the same name, which she stars in. And this is in the character is at the Mos Eisley on Tatooine, and while he's seeking work to pay for the repairs in the local cantina, he meets Toro Calican, and that's portrayed by Jake Cannavale. He's a young bounty hunter looking to join the Mandalorian's Guild, and so he is going to try and capture Fanique Shand, who is portrayed by the lovely, talented, and lethal Ming-Na Wen. And this just goes to show you again the talent that the showrunners are hiring for this show. I mean, you got a lot of talent. And so...
Sorry, hiring, or people are knocking on their door trying to get in?
Well, I'm sure there are certain people that is the case, but I've had some behind the scenes looks at this, and they have approached these people because they felt like they were going to be good fits, and when they did, like alluding to what you said, they were chomping at the bit to be a part of it. And so I think it kind of is a little bit of both in this franchise, in this series. Definitely something of note, the talent that the series draws, whether it's from people who are wanting to be a part of it to people they actively go out and pursue. So back to the plot here. We've got Fennec Shand. She's a well-trained mercenary, and despite having misgivings, Jaren agrees to help him for the bounty on her. And while the young bounty hunter would take credit for the capture. So, meanwhile, Ming-Na Wen's, Peli Motto, Amy Sedaris' character, has come across the child and begins to take care of it. He's a babysitter, and while working on the ship, growing slightly attached to it. Now, this is going to play into future episodes because Peli Motto is going to be a recurring character, and she does have an attachment to the child. I mean, let's just face it. The child is so ugly, he's cute. And people naturally will be drawn to it. I mean, it's like you're looking at this creature, and it's got these huge ears. It's green, it's scaly, but it's got these big eyes, and it's just amazing. You just fall in love with this little green guy. And just to interject in here, the puppetry. This is a puppet. This is an animated puppet. Now they do use some CGI to enhance certain things about it, but this is a puppet. This isn't just a CGI character. So they're able to inject a lot of emotion through movement with the child, and it shows. So the Mandalorian and the young bounty hunter travel to the Dune Sea on speeder bikes looking for Shand. They come upon some Tusken Raiders. The Mandalorian barters them for their safe passage, and eventually they come across Dewback, who is a Dewback, which is has a dead bounty hunter attached to it, which turns out to be bait that Shand has laid to attract anyone who's looking for her. The two manage to avoid her attacks and capture her, but she manages to destroy one of their speeder bikes in the fight. The Mandalorian goes back to the Dewback to replace the destroyed speeder while the young bounty hunter watches Shand. She tells him that the Mandalorian is a traitor to the guild and to the bounty, and that the bounty on the Mandalorian and the child are worth a great deal more than her bounty. The young bounty hunter, unconcerned with the bounty, but Shand points out that taking out a Mandalorian would make him a legend. So she's trying to backpedal her way out of this. She offers to help the young bounty hunter capture Jaren if he sets her free. However, he shoots her, assuming that she would betray him, and heads to the repair facility on the speeder bike, where he captures Moto and the child. So the young bounty hunter shoots Shand, and he does this assuming that she would betray him, and then heads to the repair facility on the speeder bike, where he captures Moto and the child. Jaren arrives and uses a flash grenade to disorient the young bounty hunter and kills him. The Mandalorian then gives his money to Moto to pay for the repairs on the ship, and he leaves Tatooine. But out in the desert, we see a mysterious figure who is approaching Shand's body. Now, dun 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 dun, this is going to be a precursor to the second season. A character familiar to all will be showing up, and it's going to really be awesome. I enjoyed this episode quite a bit. I liked that the show has him going to familiar places for Star Wars fans, and it also introduces new recurring characters. And that's going to be important as this show progresses, because you don't meet anyone by accident. A lot of these characters are not one-offs. They basically have a very specific and a very important role to play as the series progresses. So that's definitely something that I enjoyed about this show. I kind of hated that Ming-Na Wen's character was killed, because I wanted to see more, from her, just because. But it does serve a purpose when we get to these other episodes, upcoming episodes. So definitely something that is of note. The idea of moving the plot forward where Jaren and the child is concerned, I think this episode, it did a lot, but it did it in a way that makes you, again, at least for me, I was chomping at the bit for the next episode, because I wanted to find out who this person was that was approaching her body and where this was going to go, and how the next episode was going to address that, or to address these other bounty hunters who were pursuing them. One thing about this person who approached Fennec Shand, Ming-Na Wen's character, is that he was wearing spurs. I don't know if you guys picked up on that, but he was wearing spurs, and they were making a noise as he was walking. And there is a definite character from the past in the original trilogy who wore spurs. This was a clue as to what was coming. They did an excellent job in this, I think. What do you guys think about this episode?
Well, you've really set me up here. Because I'm not going to say the episode is bad, but I will say that I thought this was the weakest of the 8. I thought that the kid was an idiot and got exactly what was coming to him.
Well, there's that.
I mean, you're getting it.
There was. I'll concur with that. Yeah.
So you remember that we were going to do this episode a while ago, and I said I needed to rewatch it because I couldn't remember everything. This was an episode that was mostly gone from my head. So this was probably the reason I had to rewatch the first season, because I did not remember much of anything about this one. And the reason being is the setup. The kid's an idiot. I mean, I came into it thinking that it was going to be he was going to learn some kind of a lesson, and he just kept making one mistake after another. And I concur with you, John. I do wish that the other bounty hunter had survived, because the Mandalorian wasn't very smart leaving them either. He should have realized he was leaving someone who was in way over their head before he went to go get the dewback. They should have reversed that if they were going to try to keep her at all, because I expected him to come back and find the kid's body, not the other bounty hunter, So the other thing, and I don't know, this may ruffle some feathers or not, I don't know, but I like the character of the mechanic. I'm trying to find her name in the notes here. But I didn't think the actress was very good.
Kelly Moto was the name of the character, and Amy Sedaris is the actress who portrayed her. And I find that, if I can just interject here, I find that to be kind of strange, because I think you had mentioned, maybe I'm wrong, but did you not mention that you were a fan of Amy Sedaris and some other work of hers before?
When I looked her stuff up, I didn't see anything that I knew.
Okay.
But no, I wasn't familiar with the actress. She was, I don't know, I thought it was overacted a bit. I thought it was a little telegraphed. And that's, nothing against the character. I totally get the character's motivation and what it was about. I of all the acting and the acting has been fine overall, but of them all, I found hers the weakest, and I found this story the weakest because it was so much about this kid who you knew something bad was going to happen to him because he didn't know what he was doing. You don't get into bounty hunting on a whim. It's not something you just, I think I'll try this out for a while and see if I like it. That's just not. It's not that kind of profession, I want to take the time here, though, because there's no other way to do it. There's no place to do this smoothly, so I'm going to do it not smoothly here. I want to talk about the music for just a moment. Let me see if I can tackle this name. Ludwig Göransson?
Mm-hmm.
The music to this is amazing. From just throughout the series, it's a unique blend of sort of John Williams, sort of Western, and also its own thing, and this really interesting combination of modern synthesizers and also more acoustic percussion instruments. It's just a really neat it's a really neat score all around, and also a very, very catchy earworm of a theme. I know you know what I'm talking about there, but yeah, of these 8, this was the one I found least impressive. So I'll leave it there. Erica?
Yeah, I think here, this is the episode that us writers would refer to as the muddy middle. But unlike RJ, I was not hyper focused on a character that I knew was basically going to be dead by the end of the episode. the kid didn't bother me all that terribly much. I was focusing more on what's going on with Jaren on this one, because this I sort of see as his retreat into trying to figure out what to do with himself now that he's no longer welcome at the guild and this whole hiding out thing didn't work out. And he needs money. He's got a kid to feed. And so he's kind of trying to go back to his roots, but in a way that he absolutely knows is a bad idea. And they sort of carry this one through to the next episode as well. He's floundering. He's looking for which direction to go next. And that's what I brought out of this episode. It was more about him making bad mistakes because he doesn't know what else to do with himself.
Mm-hmm. I can definitely agree with that. I think that I agree with what you guys said, and it was probably the weakest episode of the 8, in my opinion too. But it wasn't a bad episode. At least not for me. It was one that was the least memorable, but at the same time, I had no problems remembering it because of, more specifically, Ming-Na Wen's bounty hunter character and the ending, which I alluded to, which, speaks of things to come. So with that being the case, it's really a thing that, I'm seeing something of value of this episode. So that's, in the way that it moves it forward with the ending. And that's, I guess, what stuck with me most about this episode. As far as Peli Motto's character, I actually enjoy Amy Sedaris's portrayal of the character, and I find her interesting. One of the things when I first saw her, when she was first introduced, that came to my mind, she reminded me a lot of Rhea Perlman's character from Cheers, Carla. And I don't know.
I can see that. Sure.
We're dealing with a bar. We're dealing with her. We're dealing with the way that she looks and just the whole attitude of her. So that's where it put me in that kind of frame of mind. Before we move to the next episode, one tidbit of trivia. The bartender droid in this episode was voiced by none other than Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker himself. And this is a running thing. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people didn't know that. This is a running thing with this series, though, that they will have people from the films and the TV shows and even some of the animated TV shows come in and do voice work for some of the characters in here. Going back to the episode, I think it was episode 3, where Jaren is there with the other Mandalorians, and the one that tries to pick a fight with him, that's Jon Favreau voicing that character. And he's voiced that character and others like him throughout the series. So you have a lot of times where you're going to see some of the directors and some of the showrunners have parts in the show as well. So that's another thing that just endears me to this show. And to touch upon what you said, RJ, about the music. Okay, so every episode I watch the credits, not just because of the beautiful layouts that they have
right.
Because the artwork on those is just phenomenal in and of themselves, the storyboards, but the music, I let it play out because I want to hear it. I'm sitting there, and I'm sitting there humming along. I mean, it's just,
I get my Mandalorian bop going for sure. Yeah.
I don't see the show has not missed a step. It's not missed a beat. It makes me feel like I'm that 7, 8, and 9, 9-year-old kid again. seeing Star Wars for the first time, I've got that sense of awe, that sense of wonderment, and I'm hanging on every scene. I'm hanging on every piece of dialogue, and I can't wait until the next episode. So, speaking of next episodes, the next episode is Chapter 6, The Prisoner, and it is directed by Rick Famuyiwa. Now, last episode was directed by the showrunner, or one of the showrunners, one of the producers, Dave Filoni. Now, just to give you a little bit of...
Written and directed, actually.
Yes. Just to give you a little bit of information about him, he is basically the heir apparent to George Lucas when it comes to the Star Wars franchise. And he and Jon Favreau worked very closely with George Lucas with regards to bringing these characters to life and taking their cues at the feet of the master, being George Lucas, with regards to how they handle these characters and introduce these other characters. So George Lucas is not just written off when it comes to this series. He has had a hand in some input where this series is concerned, despite the fact that basically is Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau's baby, and they do work very closely with Rick Famuyiwa. He's very active in the development. So just want to put that out there. Now, we are going to get into The Prisoner, Chapter 6. So basically, Jaren contacts his old friend, Rand, and that's voiced by Mark Boone Jr., who you may know as the cop from Batman Begins, and he's made appearances in Die Hard 2, Too Fast, Too Furious, and Sons of Anarchy, just to name a few. Rand has assembled a crew consisting of ex-Imperial sharpshooter Mayfield, who is portrayed by Bill Burr, and who's a stand-up comedian. He was in Breaking Bad. I watch a lot of television, folks, so, I'm going to tell you about this stuff. And then you've got the Deveronian strongman Berg. And this is my favorite shout out. This is Clancy, y'all. Clancy Brown's doing the voice of this character. And anytime
Clancy
you hear
MF Brown.
Right. Anytime you hear Clancy's voice, it's like you automatically just stop and you're like, what? Here he is. Oh my God. I mean, first time I saw this cat was in Highlander back in the day, and from there, he's done all kinds of screen work as well as voice work. He was Lex Luthor, for Christ's sake, in the Superman animated series and the Justice League animated series. So, yeah, took notice of that. Droid Pilot Zero.
Mr. Krabs.
Yes. He's and then we've got the Droid Pilot Zero and the knife-wielding Twi'lek woman, Xion, who's portrayed by Natalia Tina, and she's done some work on the Harry Potter series, and she played the wildling Osha in Game of Thrones. So, to rescue Rand's brother Quinn he's a prisoner of the New Republic. Now, for those of you who may not be familiar with things, the New Republic is basically that's the rebels now. They're the new, because there was an old republic before the Empire came and was trying to take everything over and enslave everybody and conquer everything, or whatnot. But now this is the New Republic. So just so you get an idea of who we're talking about here. Upon arrival to the prison ship, They fight through security droids and make their way to the control room, where an inadvertent escalation causes a New Republic soldier to trigger a beacon alerting the New Republic. The crew rescues Quinn, who Rand's brother, and they double cross the Mandalorian. So basically, pretty much, they wanted him to help them up to the point that they could get rid of him and have him take the fall for everything, and they can make their escape. However, Jaren escapes, isolates, and defeats each crew member, then captures Quinn, who he delivers to Rand in exchange for the money. Rand attempts to send a gunship after Jaren to kill him, but the New Republic beacon has been placed on Quinn, leading a trio of X-Wings to Rand's station. The X-Wings open fire on the hangar, and the last scene shows Mayfeld, Berg, and Xian nursing their wounds in a cell on the prison transport, having had their lives spared. So this is very Han Solo-ish type of episode for me. Definitely very much in line with what I love about the Star Wars franchise. This particular episode also gives you a band of rogues. And I thought that that was very interesting in the fact that we needed a band of rogues here. We needed some other characters that we could come back to. And this instance of this, the events in this episode are going to play into some other things along Jaren's journey in season 2, which I won't spoil, but definitely this is a stepping stone to introduce some characters and introduce a situation, and to kind of put Jaren in a position where the New Republic is concerned, because we're going to see a lot more from the New Republic as we move forward into this series and to the spinoffs that are coming. And if you didn't know, they are planning on a spinoff with Obi-Wan Kenobi. They are also planning like a spinoff for Bo-Katan. There are, and she was introduced in the Clone Wars, so the animated series. You guys have not checked that out, check it out. It's awesome. So there's a lot here in this episode that's just the adventure, the whole ambiance of what Star Wars means to me. I was just like on the edge of my seat, like, oh my God, here we got these new characters, and I was loving the characters even though they were rogues, and I'm like, okay, they got caught. I'm glad they didn't get killed. I want to see these characters appear again, and I'm pretty sure that we will. So seeing this was just like one of those episodes which was like it sets up a lot of other stuff for future episodes, but it was like that one-off like adventure that kind of bridges the gap. That's how I looked at it, but I didn't miss a beat. I was on it. I was like, wow, this is just amazing. And I wanted to see more episodes like this personally, because I thought that having these little side adventures on his way from point A to point B not only introduces new characters that I'd be definitely excited about learning more about, but it's the potential for spinoffs, other spinoffs, because I saw these rogues and I was like, well, they could do a show about them. I mean, that, and they all work together. The chemistry amongst the actors and how it was all pulled together. I was impressed. What did you guys think?
All right. Yeah. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this one because it's just so much fun. I mean, this is the one that really epitomized the fun of Star Wars and we haven't talked about it much, but one thing I noticed as I was watching this is the time of each episode in season 1 is around 35 to 40 minutes, which is not a lot of time. And this was one where I really really wanted another 15 or 20 minutes with these folks, because they and that's not a criticism of the pacing, because the pacing was spot on. They did exactly what they came to do. They get out. None of it feels rushed, but I also felt like, dang it, I wish I could have spent a little more time with these folks, even if it was just more banter or just more silliness, because I guess if there was if I knew someone who wasn't willing to watch the entire set of 8 and I just had one to show them, I would probably pick this one. It's everything distilled that I love about Star Wars in about 40 minutes. I mean, it's that much enjoyment for me. This one I thought was a real highlight of the entire set for sure. They did so much, they did it so well and so confidently. I didn't even mind the fact that this guy was caught in a prison for weeks and couldn't get out. Then they throw the Mandalorian in there, and he's in there, 2 minutes? He figures a way to get right out and get back to business, and whatever, that's fine. At that point, at that point, I'm just rolling with it. I'm like, this is great. This was this was definitely one of my favorites. So I'll leave it at that and pass it to Erica.
Okay, I hate to be the one to disagree with you guys, but this was the one that I thought really wasn't necessary. I felt emotionally it was retreading the exact same territory that we saw in the previous episode. It's him making yet another bad decision because he doesn't know what else to do, looking for some money. And I actually didn't find most of those characters very appealing. Now, the voice of Richard Ayoade as Zero was a welcome surprise. I loved that.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the IT crowd, so to hear his voice as a robot was just amazing for me. But I didn't feel like this really moved us forward very much, at least not within the arc of season 1. Now, I respect that, yes, there's probably going to be further season consequences for this. And we do see a little bit of that come up in season 2. But I thought as a self-contained episode, this was kind of the one that I was like, okay, we did this in the last episode. We're doing the same thing all over again.
It's kind of interesting that I didn't like the previous episode and really love this one, and it's kind of flip-flopped for you.
Yeah. Like I said, I see both of them as sort of an extension of the same thing.
Yeah, I can see that. It's just one worked for me and the other didn't, I guess.
Yeah, and I think I feel the exact same way. It's just that it was chapter 6 with the prisoner that really didn't work as well for me. Now, I'm not going to say that it's a terrible episode, because it's not.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't call any of them terrible episodes.
I didn't find the rogues gallery as appealing.
It's funny.
To have just one character to hate.
Well, it's funny that you felt that way, and I mean, and definitely, we have you on the show because we respect your opinion and your views on this, and sure, we're not always going to agree on everything, but it's kind of ironic that you don't like this episode, and this particular one was one that received a Primetime Emmy Award nomination.
Well,
I'll admit that sometimes happens. That I'll look at some and I'll be like, why was it that episode and not this other one that's, let's face it, a lot better?
Right.
Yeah, I've had that happen too. So yeah, I just thought that was a little trivia, well-placed trivia, considering the fact that you broke away from RJ and I on your opinions on the episode. I thought it was funny.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, to your point, it is definitely one that the consequences are not immediate. So for now, it's hard to know how disposable it is. But yeah, for me, it was just fun to watch, and it wasn't one it wasn't all that deep. So I guess, I kind of took it at that 9-year-old level, and that was kind of how I approached it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly where I was with it. Just fun. And I had alluded to that before, that it was just like a little adventure, kind of, it has some repercussions for future episodes. You don't see that here immediately, but
oh, you know what I didn't talk about earlier. I'm going to go back a little bit. The one part where, because it does come up in season 2, and I know we're not going to get that far, but where they have the prison guard and everybody basically wants to kill him, and it's the Mandalorian is the one dissenter to that idea. And I thought that was the first time we actually got a sense of that he values life and doesn't want to kill people unless it's absolutely necessary. And I thought that was an important insight that I don't remember being brought forward quite so specifically before. I meant to mention that when it was my turn. So
yeah, it definitely is something worth noting, because it speaks to his character. And I'll just say this to piggyback on that: he is not someone who just willfully and nonchalantly takes a life. It's usually in the actions of self-preservation or protecting the child. And he's not someone who just kills just indiscriminately. But the fact that despite all of that, he can't kill you if it's necessary, and he's not going to lose any sleep over it. It's like, okay,
and also he is a bounty hunter, so I mean he must know some of his bounties do get killed, so there's that as well. But so that was an interesting aspect that I don't remember being brought out before.
Right, takes you back to those spaghetti westerns and how the man with no name reacted to those certain situations as well.
Well, and I think maybe for me that's why this felt like a retread of the same territory we were covering in the last episode, because again, it's more along the lines of now we're seeing him kind of trying to be that guy he was, but now he can't quite be that guy. And so he's got to find a new sense of what's right and wrong. And so, like I said, for me, it seemed like those themes were very similar.
Yeah, I can see that. But I think that one last thing about the rogues, the group of people he was with on the prison ship, I will say this: it does kind of spark back to his past, and I'm wondering, beyond what you'll see when you watch this second season episodes, is how much more that's going to play into future episodes like this, where we get to see a lot more about his individual past and the people that he's had dealings with. I think that that's an interesting thing, that when it comes, we can get a glimpse into who he was and also still move forward with the story, even though it may not be as apparent, with at that point in time. So it's interesting for me. I'm going to have my eyes open for more of those.
This concludes part 2 of the Two Towers Talk Show review of The Mandalorian. Tune in next week for part 3. Thanks.